Hey everyone, this is George Couros with a epic book review, and I actually am not playing the music today. It's a little bit, maybe a little bit sadder epic book review, but I wanted to share this book. And as I mentioned before in the other book reviews, I do kind of some of my year-end book reviews. I wanted to share this book not because it was written this year, but because it was something I read this year when I really needed to read it. And as many of you know, I am a big dog guy. I had two dogs for a big chunk of my life, Odom and Cooper, and they both passed away this year, both of cancer. And it's been really difficult. And when Odom passed away, I really, really struggled. There was times where he got me out of things. I feel I could not have got out by myself. The need to get up and take him for a walk, to get him outside, to do certain things, I felt probably helped me in a way that I cannot describe. And he seemed to always kind of come to me when I really needed him. And I had another dog prior to Odom, Shaq, and she was a dog by herself. There's another dog before, Kobe. And so I've dealt with loss of dogs before, which is really, really tough, but I wouldn't have it any other way, in the sense that I'd rather have those dogs in my life than not. And Shaq was kind of lonely, got Odom. And then when Shaq passed away, Odom was lonely. So I ended up getting Cooper, and they just were like literally soulmates. It was like The Notebook. And so when Odom passed away, I really, really struggled, and I really, really had a time. And I struggled with Cooper too. Odom was my soul dog for sure. Cooper is a little bit standoffish. Cooper is more Odom's friend than anything, but I loved her to pieces. She had her own very sweet personality. And I felt that Odom's death really, really kind of shifted my year. And the thing with a dog, if you have a dog, if you understand this, because, people listen to this are like, seriously, this is a dog. If you have a dog, they are 100% dependent on you for life. They need you to live. And so you feel their entire life that even when they die of natural causes, whatever, you feel responsible in some way. And there's always, especially if you have to put a dog down, which I had to do with both my dogs, there's this version of, did I do it too soon? Did I do it too late? And there's a tremendous guilt with it. And there's a lot of guilt with Odom. He died of cancer, and he was really rough at the end. Cooper, I just knew it was time. She just kind of decided to quit eating. And so I was kind of in this weary state for a while, and I didn't know what to do. So I picked up this book, and it's called Bearing the Unbearable: Love, Loss, and the Heartbreaking Path of Grief by JOANNE CACCIATORE and Jeffrey Rubin. And I apologize if I'm not saying the names right, but I read this book, and I would read it. I would go to the gym every day, try to get movement in. And I think you when you deal with something really hard, I think it's really important to try to keep up with your patterns and your routines, even if you're just kind of going through the motions. But going through the motions does help, for me anyway. But then I would, at the end of my workout, I go sit in the sauna at the gym, and I would read a chapter. And I felt like I read a chapter because I wanted to try to deal with this as best I could, but I couldn't really take more than a chapter at a time. But it really helped, and it made me see some things in a different way. So I wanted to share this with you because I know that life is a beautiful thing. Loss is a hard thing, but without loss, there is no life, and that's the reality of it too. And it just really, really helped me. And I want to share some of the quotes that resonated with me from the book and why they mattered so much. And the first one was actually from VIKTOR FRANKL, and I read VIKTOR FRANKL's book this past year as well. I'm still getting through it, but this quote, and this is probably why I picked up the book, he had shared, and Cacciatore shares this in the book, but there is no need to be ashamed of tears, for tears bore witness that a man had the greatest of courage, the courage to suffer. And I think that's something that really resonated with me, is because anytime you welcome an animal to your home, you connect with it and maybe a new relationship, that there is an openness to hurt, to pain, that it inevitably comes from it in some way. It will always come through that process. And I think there was a time where, I remember getting Odom, and then when Shaq passed away, I wasn't ready. And there has to be a time where you are comfortable with the fact that that when you welcome a new animal to your home, not only do you have the responsibility of taking care of it, but you have the responsibility of being with it for the entirety of its life, knowing that you will likely outlive your dog. And there's such a courage to that. And I always kind of feel a little discomfort sharing this, this stuff, but it is, this podcast is talking about innovation, learning in life. And, we have to be comfortable sharing when we struggle. And I remember when I talked about Odom, I was destroyed, and it was one of the hardest podcasts that I had to get through. But I'm proud that I have the ability to welcome that into my life, to feel something so deeply that I can share that with people, because I think a lot of times people have perceptions of who you are and kind of, what you are, and they just see the good stuff. They don't necessarily the bad stuff. And I'm very proud that I'm comfortable struggling, because if you're not comfortable struggling, you're not comfortable finding success. You're not comfortable, being happy, because that inevitably comes. So the Viktor Frankl quote really, really stuck to me. And this kind of goes into the second quote directly from Cacciatore. When we love deeply, we mourn deeply. Extraordinary grief is an expression of extraordinary love. Grief and love mirror each other. One is not possible without the other. When both Odom and Cooper passed away, at different, about 6 months apart, this quote really kind of hit me, especially with Odom, is that I kept wondering, like, why is this happening to me? Like, why did this happen the way that it did? And I really, really struggled with it. And I was just so overwhelming. I would wake up, I would look and I'd see Odom somewhere, and I was so immeasurably sad. And I feel a lot of that sadness still to this day. And when I read this quote, it really made me realize that the reason I was feeling so upset about what had happened this year was because I loved those dogs so much. They really meant everything to me. And there was parts of my day where I would wake up at the same time, not because of me, but because of my dogs, because I had to give Odom his medicine. I had to take the dogs for a walk. I had to feed them at certain times. I had to feed them at certain times at night. I had to take them for a walk. And that routine was something that made me better, and was something that made them happy. And I remember actually when I moved here, driving all the way from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada to Orlando for specifically the reason of making sure the dogs got here safely. I didn't want them to go on a plane. And going through that routine, it just made me so much closer. I'm so grateful for that time. It actually made me more connected to those dogs than ever, because I saw how excited they were to take walks every day. And then I realized I'm in a new space, and since I'm in a new space, I want to do new things. And I really am so grateful for that time. And I felt like it was just such a good time. And since moving here, I really connected with my dogs in a totally different way. And it's not that I didn't love them before, but it was just like we had so much bonding time that I didn't really have in the same way in Edmonton, because we had those walks, because we had that time, because I'd see them and they'd frustrate me, and that's something that I look back and like how badly I would love to be frustrated on a walk with them barking at dogs or doing something at a certain time, and I think about that quite a bit, and so that's something to me. This quote is that the devastation that I was feeling was a direct result of the love that I had for those dogs. And that really, really mattered to me. And so this leads to the last quote: between grief and nothing, I will take grief. And I just think of that quote is that it's kind of like, to love, I don't know, it's like to love and lose is better to never love at all. Something like, oh, how do I not know this quote? And, I'm so, as I move more away from the passing of my dogs, and I see the joy of my dog Suggs, who I welcomed my home in April, who is extremely annoying, extremely hard to deal with. But his obnoxiousness is something I really, really love. And I like, it's weird because he's a puppy still. He's not even, I think he's a year old. And I know I'm going to have to go through the same thing. And so going through the same thing, what I realize is that some of his most obnoxious moments are things I will miss at some point, that I'll miss having. And it's the same thing, with people in our lives. Some of the things that really annoy us, if they're gone, you'll miss them. And I remember having this conversation with my daughter, Clea. She used to complain. One of her jobs in the house was to pick up the dog stuff outside. And not because she volunteered to do it. She was doing chores around the house, and that was one that she said she wanted to do. And then she hated doing it. I said, I want you to really think of the alternative. The alternative is that, you complain about this, but one day you won't have to do it because the dogs won't be here. And I'd rather do it and just be bothered by it than not to have to do it at all. And so she really got that. And it's really sweet to see her. She took her a while to really connect with Suggs. But it's sweet to see that now, because I think she realizes how much she misses other dogs, those dogs that looked after her, really cared about her. They cared about, Marino and Georgia. And as much as sometimes it's really hard to deal with the struggle, and I still deal with it. I still swear I see Cooper lying at the corner of my bed sometimes, because she wouldn't lay with me, just kind of the corner. She just wanted to be around me, but not too close. And I miss her tremendously. I miss Odom tremendously, but I so appreciate I had such a long time with them. And I know dogs make you better, or at least they did that for me, because they keep you in line, and they show you that the little things you take for granted are often the things that they enjoy the most. So I just want to share this book with you, because I know all of you listening to this, at some point you probably dealt with grief in your life, loss, and a struggle. So this book is something it really helped me as much as it could, as much as a book could, with the devastating loss. And I didn't read it all at once, but I took it in small chunks and read it as much as I could take in a day. So I was really grateful to have this book. So I wanted to share it with you all. It's not like a groundbreaking book or anything, but it might be the book that somebody needs to read if they're dealing with something themselves. So thanks for being here. I just want to share this with you. I'll try to keep it upbeat a little bit, but yeah, it's just, I wanted to reflect on this and why it matters to me so much. Thanks for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.